Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am an astrologer and I make videos all about astrology. Okay, so in today's video we're going to be discussing the 5 things you need to know about this full moon in Gemini taking place on the 7th of December 2022. So stay tuned. However, before we do dive into today's video, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and click the bell. And if you are interested in a personal reading from myself, then you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. There you can also find my Practical Astrology ebooks and merch. All the links will be in the description box below. I do hope that you find this video to be helpful today. Let's do this. Alright, so the first thing you need to know about this full moon in Gemini is that it will oppose the sun in Sagittarius at 16 degrees, creating the number 7 in numerological terms. So here we are with another 16 degrees full moon, keeping in mind that the last one was in Taurus and that was a lunar eclipse. And it's the number 7 that represents things like wholeness, spirituality, transformation, truth, empathy, wisdom, possibility, and luck. There is also a letting go quality to the number 7, which is quite fitting with the full moon because full moons are a time of release. But the question is, what are we releasing? Well, if we consider how Mars has been retrograde in Gemini for the last while, perhaps we will be really shedding old skin to do with our mindset, communication, to do with our studies. Maybe there is something that isn't serving us anymore. Something regarding your intellect or your education. Then again, it could be that you're feeling restless about something during this time. You're feeling scattered, you're feeling directionless. I mean, with the sun in Sagittarius and then the moon in Gemini, it can signify an undirected time. We don't want to be tied down to anything during this full moon. We wish we could just do our own thing and not have to deal with any commitments, any responsibilities. That's certainly how I felt whilst typing this script for this full moon video, funny enough. And I think also coming out of a really heavy eclipse season, it was very heavy, very intense. There is a part of us that just doesn't want to feel chained to anything. We want to roam, we want to explore. We would much rather gravitate toward the thing that catches our interest. Perhaps there are things that simply feel boring, okay? Boring, dull, and lifeless. We want our energy back. We want our motivation back. Keeping in mind that Mars retrograde energy in Gemini, which we will get to in a moment. So on that note, let's get into these signs. So let's say this full moon is taking place in your first house. So looking at you Gemini, sun, moon, and risings. Perhaps during this period, you feel extra restless and scattered. You want to move and be free, but there are other day-to-day things to attend to. Maybe you release a life direction or a particular way of viewing the world, or you don't want to feel tied to a certain task or even a relationship. You don't want to have to deal with communication regarding your identity. You want so badly to move forward from something, but things are just, they're moving slower than expected. But perhaps you let go of a particular outlook or a mindset. Or let's say this full moon is taking place in your 9th house, so looking at you Libra, sun, moon, and risings. Perhaps during this period you feel all over the place when it comes to your higher learning, when it comes to your travels also. You want to get out there and explore and do all the things that uplift you and inspire you. You want to think freely and more positively, but life just feels like it's moving slower. Maybe you release a belief or a worldview. Perhaps you don't want to have to deal with commitments regarding your meaning. But then let's say this full moon is taking place in your 5th house, so looking at you Aquarius, sun, moon and risings. Perhaps during this period, you feel undirected and restless when it comes to your creativity projects, or your creative projects, when it comes to your interests as well. I can certainly relate to this as someone who has an Aquarius sun. I have so many creative projects that I'm working on at the moment, but a big part of me just wants to say, F it. It's too much. I don't want to have to feel chained to it all anymore. But I'm just reminding myself that this is all part of the process, okay? Yeah, maybe you can relate as someone who has an Aquarius sun, but still, maybe you release a hobby or a romantic relationship, or you change something in relation to these things, or you don't want to deal with commitments regarding play or even regarding children, and even in my case, regarding your creative projects. But hey, it's got to be done. The second thing you need to know about this full moon in Gemini is that it will conjunct Mars retrograde in Gemini, and Mars will be making the exact same degree. It will also be 16 degrees, meaning the full moon and Mars come as a package. They come as a team here. So this really is pointing toward the part of this full moon that says, we want our energy back, okay? I think when it comes to retrogrades, as much as we know they will come to an end at some point, at some time, there can be moments throughout the process, throughout each retrograde, where it can feel more challenging than others. And keeping in mind here that the full moon will be opposing the sun in Sagittarius. Okay, this is creating this challenge. But then not only is the moon opposing the sun, but so is Mars. Keeping in mind the sun in astrology rules our vitality. It's connected to our purpose, how we shine, the ways in which we feel good. And with it being then in Sagittarius, there is this uplifted, feel-good energy. We want to broaden our horizons and experience greater joy and happiness. However, with Mars being retrograde, opposing the sun, keeping in mind that Mars can point toward our energy levels, our motivations, our drive, our self-assertion. So perhaps we don't feel so passionate or enthusiastic during this time. Things can feel stagnant, unappealing, a bit blah, a bit meh. We might feel as though certain things are just pointless, really, as though they lack meaning, or maybe some of us are just tired. We feel exhausted and we're looking for something more exciting. Maybe we want to embrace something new, but we feel like we're being, pulled back, okay? And so during this full moon in Gemini, maybe we also consider our energy levels and our motivations. We consider how uplifted we feel or how lifeless we can feel at times as well. It's this whole attitude of, am I only trying to make it through the day, or can I add something greater to my life? The song Bring Me to Life by Evanescence is actually coming to my mind here. So I think what's important to keep in mind as well is, self-compassion, empathy. The number 7 also represents these things, okay? So be kind to yourself during this full moon. So be tender with yourselves and turn your attention toward your spiritual practices. So on that note, let's say this full moon is taking place in your 3rd house, so looking at you Aries, sun, moon and risings. Perhaps during this period you feel kind of meh when it comes to communication, when it comes to your studies. Again, I can relate to this as someone who has an Aries moon. I feel kind of flat when it comes to the whole to the teaching projects that I'm currently working on. I know this won't be forever. It's just a little short period of time, right? But I do still think that I need a little bit of, inspiration, something to liven me up. So perhaps as someone who has an Aries sun, moon or rising, you can relate. Then again, maybe you feel tired or you feel worn out when it comes to the relationship that you have with your siblings or with your cousins. Or it could be that your beliefs or your higher education feel like they lack some type of meaning right now. Maybe you can show yourself some empathy and actually appreciate how far you've come when it comes to your education and when it comes to your further studies. But then let's say this full moon is taking place in your 11th house, so looking at you Leo, sun, moon and risings. Perhaps during this period you feel kind of meh, kind of blah when it comes to your group involvements, when it comes to your communities. Maybe you feel sort of flat, sort of stagnant. as if you want something to change, okay? But now just isn't the time, or things are just moving slower. Things are just going at a more slower pace, and that's okay too, right? You still, though, you might feel worn out, or you may lack motivation when it comes to your clubs and groups, or certain friendships just feel a little lifeless at the moment, a little dull. Or quite possibly it could be that your creative projects feel unappealing or just not very exciting. And so therefore, okay, maybe you can change some things here, right? You can switch things up. You know, Gemini energy is very flexible. And also show yourself some kindness, okay? Be gentle with yourself. What you're feeling won't last forever. Appreciate how far you've come when it comes to your hobbies and when it comes to the teams you're a part of. Or let's say this full moon is taking place in your 7th house. So looking at you Sagittarius, Sun, Moon and risings. Perhaps during this period, you feel kind of blah when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your partnerships. Maybe you feel slightly off, okay? Like things just aren't moving as quickly as you would like them to. Maybe things feel kind of boring, kind of stagnant. Maybe you need to switch something up. You want to switch something up, but you know, you're having to wait as well. You might even feel sort of tired, or you may lack energy when it comes to your business partnerships, or even when it comes to your clients. Or it could be that your desires to take action just feel off. Maybe you just want to sit on the sofa and do nothing all day, or you want to switch off just for a little bit. Put yourself first. And so with this, again, be kind to yourself, show yourself some empathy, and appreciate how far you've come when it comes to your goals and also when it comes to your relationships. The third thing you need to know about this full moon in Gemini is that the dispositor of this full moon, which is Mercury, it will be in Capricorn. So Mercury will just have entered Capricorn. It'll actually be 1 degree in this sign. And this is significant because I was talking previously there about how we might not feel or how we don't want to feel, chained to obligations, chained to anything during this full moon. We don't want to have to deal with anything, any commitments. But we most likely will have to anyway. This is because Mercury in Capricorn means we'll be thinking about our obligations and about our commitments. Our accomplishments will be on our minds. It's this whole attitude of, well, that project, it isn't going to finish itself. I say this because I've been thinking this way lately in regards to the astrology guide that I'm currently working on. I've had to stop and really just tell myself, this guide, Hannah, it's not going to write itself and you just got to do it. Yes, Mars may still be retrograde and there may be moments when I don't feel like doing anything. There may be moments when you don't feel like doing anything. And yes, it can be there can be times, where we can sit back and rest and take it easy in this way. But at the same time, I've had to try to push past these barriers during other times. There are times when, I will listen to my body and slow down, but there are other times and moments when I push through. And with Mercury being in Capricorn, I'm trying to keep a strong and steady mindset. Perseverance, says Capricorn. Go where the wind takes you, says Gemini. So sure, there is a part of us that might feel flat, bored, or restless. There's part of us that doesn't want to stick to plans, but there is another part of us that thinks, okay, but this must be done, whether I like it or not. And how good am I going to feel as well for doing it, right? That's certainly how I feel at times. And also, sometimes that's how life goes, whether we like it or not. We are reminded of our duties and our responsibilities. Though, of course, on the other hand, do be aware of becoming a slave, okay? Or punishing ourselves if or when we don't meet all of our expectations. Or other people's expectations at that. Like I was saying a moment ago, practice self-compassion. And also, Venus will be in Sagittarius and it will conjunct Mercury during this full moon. So there is some uplifting energy, some hopeful, optimistic energy floating around. So let's say this full moon is taking place in your second house, so looking at you Taurus, sun, moon and risings. Perhaps during this period you feel sort of worn out when it comes to how you earn a living, or you feel less energized about your talents or your skills, but you're also aware of your responsibilities and your duties regarding advanced training, regarding your beliefs. You're reminded of working hard toward your future aspirations and your meaning. It could be that you shed old skin, or you reap rewards when it comes to your wealth, when it comes to your physical security, but the process, it's slower, though I don't think you mind things being slower. You're quite patient people typically. You might even focus on your long-term success regarding your higher education, being hopeful and optimistic when it comes to your shared resources might help. But then, let's say this full moon is taking place in your 10th house, so looking at you Virgo, sun, moon and risings. Perhaps during this period you feel kind of worn out or unmotivated when it comes to your career, when it comes to your accomplishments, or you feel less energized about your long-term goals, but you're also aware of your creative project responsibilities or of your commitments regarding your children or romance. The reason why I'm going like this, because I have a Virgo rising, so I'm sort of like thinking, yes, come on Hannah, I can relate. You're reminded also of the road ahead. It could be that you shed old skin, or you reap rewards when it comes to your interests, when it comes to your hobbies and your passions, but again, the process is slow. You might focus on the long-term success of your creativity, and being hopeful and optimistic within your home might help. The fourth thing you need to know about this full moon in Gemini is that the moon and Mars will trine Saturn in Aquarius. And there is a 4-degree orb, so this energy is somewhat strong. And with this trine to Saturn, this can suggest greater stability and foundation. We have an opportunity to be steady and structured, especially when it comes to our unique ideas, when it comes to our group involvements. We can keep at it, okay? Even though we have all of these internal battles going on, even though it can feel like we're about to explode and we're about to start screaming at others who get in our way. Yeah, we might want to give others a piece of our mind. Still, Saturn is coming along and saying, think it through. You know, Mercury in Capricorn is also communicating a similar message. Indeed, we can think about the consequences of our actions, the consequences of our words. Are you being rational, or are you feeling uncomfortable, or are you looking for a way to release your energy? Maybe you need to have those types of discussions with others. You need to get something off your chest, a conversation that you've been meaning to have for a long time. However, even though we might think it's a good time to clear the air with others, well, misunderstandings and miscommunication is likely. Essentially, the grounded influence of Saturn might also help us when it comes to our commitments and our responsibilities, as previously mentioned. So let's say this full moon is taking place in your 6th house, so looking at you Capricorn, sun, moon and risings. Perhaps during this period you feel a lack of motivation when it comes to your working life, but you're also aware of your responsibilities regarding your life path, regarding your identity. And at the same time, you can draw from your alone time inspiration, to really help uplift you. But with Saturn being in your 2nd house, it could be that you might stick with the security that you've been building. A part of you might want to explode even when it comes to work, but your long-term financial goals, they keep you somewhat focused and grounded. Though do be cautious of miscommunication with co-workers. Or let's say this full moon is taking place in your 12th house, so looking at you Cancer, sun, moon and risings. Perhaps during this period you feel somewhat worn out when it comes to your alone time, when it comes to your behind the scenes activities, but you're also aware of your responsibilities regarding your business partnerships and your clients, and at the same time you can draw from coworker or health inspiration to help you out. But with Saturn being in your 8th house, it could be that you stick with the security that you're building within your intimate relationships. Part of you even might feel like exploding when you're alone, but your long-term joint financial goals keep you somewhat focused and grounded. Though, do be cautious of subconscious miscommunication or misunderstandings regarding your dreams, for example. And the fifth and final thing you need to know about this full moon in Gemini taking place on the 7th of December 2022 is that Neptune will square the moon and Mars. Alright, so not only is there a moon and Mars square to Neptune, but the sun is also making a square to Neptune. There is a T-square going on between the mutable signs. Oh, so much chaotic energy, scattered, undirected, contradictory, non-committal, and just always changing. It might be tough to catch a break during this full moon. Everything just feels back to front, upside down. Thank goodness we have the Trine to Saturn anchoring us slightly, along with that Mercury and Capricorn, helping us to think rationally and sensibly about things. It might feel like we're being swept away by the oceans of Neptune, meaning swept away by delusions, illusions, and just so many emotions. Perhaps paying attention to our spiritual values can be supportive. What's ringing through my mind right now actually is try to remain calm. Though I know usually when that is said, we do not feel calm in the slightest. It can actually make us feel more stressed. Though perhaps a different thing to say is don't be so hard on yourself. So on that note, let's say this full moon is taking place in your 8th house. So looking at you Scorpio, sun, moon and risings. Perhaps during this period you feel meh when it comes to your intimate relationships, or when it comes to managing other people's money, or just managing other people in general. But you're also aware of your duties regarding paperwork or media, or you can draw from some financial security, inspiration to really uplift you. But with Neptune being in your 5th house, you feel swept away by delusions and emotions about a romantic matter or about a creative situation. Perhaps your spiritual practices can support you or create some type of stillness. A rest or even a reset might be beneficial for you during this time. But then let's say this full moon in Gemini is taking place in your 4th house. So looking at you Pisces, sun, moon and risings. Perhaps during this period you feel unmotivated or worn out when it comes to your home, when it comes to your family life, or when it comes to your emotional well-being. But you're also aware of your commitments regarding your teams or communities. And you can draw from career or accomplishment inspiration to uplift you. But with Neptune being in your 1st house, you might feel swept away by many illusions and powerful emotions about your life path, about a life situation, about your identity. Perhaps your spiritual practices or being compassionate can be supportive, or just taking some time to yourself can even be helpful. Taking some time to recharge, really. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video talking about the 5 things you need to know about this full moon in Gemini taking place on the 7th of December 2022. I just want to say here that during this recording, things were so chaotic for me, but we made it through. We got there to the end. Thank goodness. Please do let me know your thoughts and your opinions on today's video. Yes, and I really do hope that you find it to be helpful as always. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then make sure that you click that subscribe button and also give this video a like if you did like it today. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye! Happy full moon!